All right, we're back.
Okay.
There's the sound.
A little tap.
Afternoon, late morning, boys.
I'm in a suit.
I'll
It's
come
harder
over
to be flexible in this.
And you got a suit on. That's why you're suited up. You're suited up.
Yeah.
You didn't choose it, though.
No, funeral today, but
Yeah.
I thought I might as well roll onto the set and look important for a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Imagine having to go to work like that every day.
Yeah. I don't like to think about it.
Wouldn't do it.
No.
Couldn't do it.
Suited up.
No.
Suited up.
Our office is more like we did yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out in the waters.
I wear Instinct to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wearing boots.
Which is a
right
good
now.
setup.
Exactly. Well, since we're opening up this Busch Light, let's start off with a good topic here. New partner alert.
Yeah.
Wee-oo announcement.
New partner alert. We are very excited to say that officially we can announce finally that Busch Light is the official beer of Wilder Minds and the Keefer Brothers.
Yep.
So we're very
Cheers to
excited
that.
about it.
Yeah,
So cheers to that. Busch Light is on board.
Cheers.
We got a lot of fun things coming up with them, don't we? I mean, it's pretty cool what's going to be happening in the fall. We're not going to give away too much, but
I was
what
just
can
going
we
to say
talk
we
about?
can't get into it. We can't talk about much other than holy shit, we've got some cool stuff coming down the pipe.
We do.
Pretty excited for what's going to launch. It's going to be a while. What is it, March? We got a couple months until all this stuff kicks off. But yeah, Busch Light, man, they came on in a big way. They're an awesome partner, and we're going to do some really fun stuff, not just with us, but with the audience too. So
Yeah.
pretty
And
jacked.
a couple of years ago, we did the giveaway. The hunt giveaway to hunt on our Ohio farm, and that went real well, I thought.
Yeah.
Had a buddy actually somehow, randomly won it.
Yeah.
Which was the most miraculous thing, I think, that ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on a roll with that because we've done a couple of giveaways. In the last giveaway that we did, we actually had a person that we know win it as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's kind of wild.
Sarah Taxidermy came up in my phone. Our taxidermist won this hunt.
She won.
Yeah, so it's exciting. So Busch Light, it's authentic to who we are. It's what we drink. It's what we do. We have a lot of moments around a Busch Light, especially after a hunt in the skinning shed and where we're at. So it just made sense to finally put it together, and can't speak highly enough of that team over there. Kristen's been amazing. That whole everybody. It's just been amazing. So very cool. I'm very excited about it.
Lots of cool shit to come.
Yes,
Look
there is.
out. Keep your eye out. We'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. So, all right, let's kick it off. The Wilder Minds podcast, episode 4. It's been fun so far. I think you guys have been great, giving us some feedback on what you want to hear, the stories, all that good stuff, which is really kind of cool. So I'm excited to kind of keep this thing rolling.
Speaking of feedback, I don't think a lot of people knew that you used to rip darts.
Right? Oh, unbelievable. All right. Okay, people. If you were born in the 90s, you fucking smoked too. Don't act like you didn't.
You listened to
Born
Dave
in the
Matthews.
90s.
You listened to Dave
You were born in the 90s?
No, if you graduated, I'm sorry,
Jesus.
in the 90s.
So
not
you
born.
aged heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you graduated between 95 and 2005, you listened to Dave Matthews and you smoked cigarettes.
And wore Birkenstocks without socks.
Exactly. And so you did. You absolutely. And I know a lot of these people now that are in their mid-40s are closet darts. Where like you go to a party and like no one's going to smoke. But man, that one person breaks the rule and goes outside. All of a sudden it's like, yeah, I'd have a dart with you. Sure, I'll have a dart with you. Next thing you know, 10 people in their 40s. So don't judge me.
Everybody
Don't judge
out
me.
there ripping heaters.
Unbelievable.
Ripping heaters. I was never a smoker, but I do love the smell of an outdoor cigarette.
I'm a pipe guy.
Oh, yeah. You and I. Yeah.
JV and I smoked the pipe on Dropped. It's nice. Very nice.
Hold on.
I could take that a whole nother level.
Let's back up for a second.
That look you just gave me.
Let's back up for a second. Let me rephrase that.
Oh,
I take a tobacco pipe and I light it while I'm on drop, as does Jason.
You smoke your own tobacco pipe.
Yeah.
No one else's.
Fucking shot out of cannon on this episode, folks.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Well, I'm glad we clarified that. That's now that we got that out.
You had a shock in your face when you said
I had
that.
an immediate oh shit moment. I'm like, well, that didn't come out the way I intended it to.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I must have missed the behind the scenes on that episode.
Wash your mouth out.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
So I'm beating both your asses in March Madness.
When did you go ahead? I thought I was first in the bracket.
There's a C
I'm
Keefer.
not.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Oh,
okay.
not.
All right.
I was at. I know nothing about that. Literally nothing. I was at, except that they're not the best athletes in the world. I was at like
College guys
90.
aren't.
I was at 90% victorious after round one.
Yeah.
Round two just smoked me.
Yeah.
I'm at like 40% right now.
Yeah, well,
the one team that I had in the Final Four,
Yeah.
the team I had winning it's still in it. Everybody else I had in the Final Four is out.
St. Mary's went out quick.
Yeah, they went out.
I kind of felt that. That was a good, I mean,
Little nose
it was a good
down.
effort. I'll tell you this, the NIL has eliminated a lot of these underdogs, a lot of the Cinderella stories, because these great players from these smaller schools, they're transferring to bigger schools.
Yeah.
So you just look at a lot of the successful teams right now, Michigan, one of them, they've got a kid from Yale that was on Yale's team last year that made a run. They're transferring to bigger schools. So the smaller schools aren't necessarily, and maybe it's just a trend right, this year. It's not a trend yet. If it happens again next year, it could be a trend. But it's interesting to see that. I love the Cinderella story, and it sucks that there's nobody literally beyond a 10 seed that's in right now.
You literally could have told me that before I filled out my fucking because I was all Cinderella except state, and I'm still breathing. So.
Yeah, you're still.
Are you really in first?
I really am in first place, and much to my shock, when I checked my thing, I was like, I'm leading. I have no. I mean, I'm at 96th percentile, like rank 700 or something. And I'm like, all right. So I look. I'm not saying there was any skill involved in that whatsoever, other than just kind of checking some things out and going like, let's just make this bracket.
Yeah, it's been pretty predictable so far. All the 1 seeds are still in it, which is kind of rare, honestly. A lot of times a 1 seed will go down going in the Sweet 16. I think all the top 2 seeds are still around. So if you picked favorites, you're probably doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool though. It's been fun to do with
It's fun,
the whole, obviously brackets are. I think it was last thing I saw was like 27 million brackets, 5,000 as of like before the last games last week were perfect. Still, but out of 27 million, which is incredible, and that was after like the first round. So I mean, just to be able to continue that stat, I mean, that's just
it's unreal.
That is amazing. So it's cool.
I've got an interesting. While you're speaking about this, I've got an interesting fact about brackets and the plausibility of picking a correct bracket.
It's never
like
happened.
the whole thing.
It's never happened.
Perfect bracket.
1 in 9.2 quintillion. It's 9.2 quintillion to 1 chance that you're going to pick a perfect bracket. Quintillion. And this is
so you're telling me there's a chance.
There is. But listen to this.
Actually.
This blew my mind, because to put that in perspective, so as of 2015, the best estimate for the number of trees on the planet was 3 trillion. Imagine that there was one single acorn hidden in one of the 3 trillion trees, and you were tasked to finding that acorn on the first guess. Your odds of success are approximately 3 million times greater to find that acorn than picking a perfect bracket.
I know that acorn is backed by Jagger in those trees because I sit there every morning and I go,
he's back there.
You're like, oh my God, between the timber tigers and the acorns, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's never going to happen.
No.
Which is crazy to think that it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it could.
That's amazing.
It could. I mean, there's those stats like that like it could.
Well, here's what I think. I think if it is going to happen, AI is going to have something to do with it. That's just my personal. I feel like something in AI is going to predict some sort of, stat thing that's going to go, there's the perfect bracket. Again, you never know because you can't control real life. But I think it's something's going to happen where if it is going to happen, it'll be in the next 10 years is like when
I mean, if AI can predict that, you'd think it could predict lotto numbers, right? You'd think it could, I mean,
why don't we just
put lottery out of business?
Ask Oz the mentalist. That some bitch is smart. I've seen him on a couple of things lately with the players.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Have you ever seen Oz the mentalist?
Yeah, he comes into the basketball or the locker rooms, right?
Yeah, he does all
that
the stuff
with
in
the
the locker
teams.
rooms. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable, actually. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So I got a story for you guys. I've been holding this in, but it's a story that happened to me. It's a relevant story that happened to me over the weekend, and there's a lot to unpack here for a second, but it's a funny story that I think
you've been teasing this.
You guys will relate with. So Saturday night, I sit down at the house and set the tone for a second. I live in a dead end street, right? Got some acreage out there. So if if a car comes down, a lot of times it's in the wrong road, and it turns around, and then it's pretty much gone. So I can see it from my house, and it's gone, right? Yeah. So, but I don't know, you guys are this way, but as a man in my house full of women, I have my chair is like, it sits so that I can see certain things.
Sure.
Right? Like, so if you go into a
Ingress
restaurant.
and egress.
Yeah. So if you go into a restaurant, and I don't know if you think about this, but I always face the door. I always look at like who's coming in, right? Like
in a corner, wall
constantly like wall at my back, and I do those things. I don't know if anybody else does, but that's kind of what I do. Even in my house, when I'm sitting in my chair, which is the little swivel chair, right? I can see out the windows of who's coming down the driveway in a certain area or who's coming down the road. So I see these 3 cars. And they go down and they blow by fast. So I know they don't realize that it's going to be a dead end and that it's dirt, right?
Yeah.
Then I see the 3rd one slow down aggressive, and it's nighttime. And I have a very long driveway with the light poles, and they're not on, right? And you can see that they're confused. So I walked out to talk to my daughter. She was out there with her boyfriend. They're out in the different room. And I go, hey, are these your buddies? Because they got the Snapchat, the snapper location, right? They can just get on there. They check everybody's location, you know. Yeah. So I'm like, check your locations. Are these people that you know? Or is this like, do I have to get into a little different mode?
You have to get involved.
Like, what do I have to do here, right? So they look on there and they're like, we got nobody. Like this, I don't know what this is. These 3 cars come back. I see them all stop, and they get out. So at this point, I'm like, I'm going to step out and see what we got. I see 10 individual people getting out of the car, and they're walking now. They're going to come down my driveway. I'm like, huh. So at this point, it's like gangs in New York. Like,
did you take the full choke out?
So I said very subtly, I said to my daughter, like, are these kids? Like, check again, because if they're not, I'm going to go get some supplies that are right there. Like, if not, then I'm just going to obviously try to scare them and let them, what are they doing? So I look, and here comes these 10 kids that are coming down the driveway, and they're like and they're not being stealthy.
Yeah.
Kylie says, I don't know who they are. I'm like, okay. So I just yell from the porch. Who's in my driveway? And you see these kids stop like this.
Cookie Monster?
Yeah, they
Is
stop.
that how you sounded?
Yeah, I did. I did a deep, like, who's in my driveway? They stop, right? All of a sudden I go, run. And they take off, man, like crazy. They're scattered all over the yard. 10 of them just scattered, like, and I'm like.
You tell them to run?
Yeah, I did. I said, run as fast as you can. And they're running, like deep voice, right?
Did they at least zag? Were they taught to run?
Oh, you should have seen them. They were going, and I have like a creek. You hear one person splash, and he's like, my feet are wet, and all these things. Like, they're running.
So what time is this?
This is late. This is like 10 something.
Okay, so it's darkness.
So it's dark. Oh, it's dark.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so I come back in, and Kylie, and she's there with her boyfriend, and they're like, we're trying to figure out who this is and, what's going on. And I'm like, I don't understand what they were doing. So it turns out some high school kids have younger middle school, like brothers and sisters and kids, and they were at a place, and they dared these middle school kids to go ding dong ditch the longest driveway, which is our driveway. They were going to try to ding dong ditch. So they're going to come up.
So they're lining it up, trying to find the longest.
But I'm talking, these kids had the stealth. They're all talking out loud. They're in the middle of the lights. I mean, it was awful. Terrible display.
Dum-dums.
Terrible display of stealth.
They weren't hunters.
Now, hold. It gets better. So I'm like a little excited about it because I'm like messed with them, and then I'm like, that was fun. Like, they ran away. So I go back and I sit in my seat. Well, I see some brave ones. I see a couple of brave ones come back, right? So the vehicle pulls up, and I'm like, oh, coming back for round 2. This time they park a little bit like back there. I see the lights go off, and I'm like, oh, this is a game on. Game on. Now, have you ever, as a man, thought through these things about like defending your household? Has it ever gone through your head?
Many a times. Constantly,
yes.
actually.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
so I'm not the only one who has thought about like, okay, this is coming to life. We're doing this. I've thought about this 1,000 times. If someone was to approach and encroach in my house, what would I do? Yeah. Well, now I get to live this out with children. And I'm like, I'm taking them down, right? This is happening, right? So I go outside on the front porch, and the lights are now on. The big driveway lights are on, right? So I go out on the front porch, and I crouch down because I can see through the woods. Well, I see them. There's 4 of them, right? Feet are moving around. Again, terrible display of stealthiness. They turn on their flashlight, okay? They kill the lights on the car, and they use their phone lights because they can't see.
Yeah.
Right? So my daughter opens the door, and as she opens the door, she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm crouched. And I just look at her and I go, "Kill the lights." She's like, "How long have you been wanting to say that?" I go, "Forever, kill the lights." She kills the lights, right? Well, they stop. And they're like, "What just happened?" I can hear them. They're all talking.
I feel like this is that Geico commercial when the people are trying to run from the chainsaw match. Right behind the running chainsaws.
What should they do? So, all right. So now the lights are killed and I make a move, right? My daughter opens the door. I'm gone. I go to her boyfriend's car and I hide behind that. And then I take off and I'm through the woods. I know exactly where I'm going. I know every tree. I'm going. Well, they get to the end of the driveway. And they pause and the kid's like, "I don't know, man." Say, "I don't think we should go down. I don't think we should do it." And I am now, at this point, I'm about 15 feet from them, and they have no clue I'm standing there, right? So they start walking back to the car. And we talked about how I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth sometimes with the celebrations on the whitetail hunts. I jump behind them, and I just sneak up, and I am now 10 feet from behind them. They're getting to the car, and I go, "Psst, let's dance."
Let's dance.
Kid comes out of his shoes, literally out of his shoes. They start taking off. They're like opening the door. The other kid's driving, and he's leaving kid. Like they're like hanging onto the side of the vehicle. They take off. He got so scared, he came out of his shoes. Oh my God. His shoes were still laying there.
Like so an episode of Scooby-Doo.
But all I could think of in the moment, I just go, "Psst, let's dance." Just like that. And this kid goes, "Oh my God." He takes off, runs, right? And they get in the car and they go 100 miles an hour. And I'm like, okay, now I scared him to the point where I was worried about how fast they were driving.
Yeah.
So I come back in, and at this point now, Kylie, and my daughter's just like, "Okay, you've thought about this." I said, "Kylie, I've thought about the intrusion and I've been able to actually live it out." And the kid called and he's like, "Okay, we give up." Right? They ended up calling, and Kylie and her boyfriend, they're like, "Okay, we give up, but can I come back and get my shoes?" Because I ran out of my shoes. That's what happened at the end of the day.
So Kylie knew who they were?
So yeah, at the end of the day, they got it all figured out, and it was high schoolers. They were daring some middle school kids to go do the ding dong. They tried it. Then the high school kids were like, "Oh, you didn't do it right. Let me do it." And then I got them really good, and then they took off.
Unreal.
So yeah, so I thought you guys would enjoy that story about one, protecting your place. Like it's always in your mind, right?
Forever.
Like there's a stat out there that says that men think about being a Spartan like so many times in a month. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like I do, right? So, I mean, do you guys think through that?
Oh, all the time. Well, we all live back.
Yeah.
You know, we're not just right in the middle of town or anything. So there's woods all around us. So you figure out, you think about the escape routes and, you know, where, if someone's going to come into the house, where are they going to come in from?
Oh, yeah. See, my deal is if someone comes down my driveway, they're committed. It's 2/3 of a mile long.
Yeah.
Like they are 100% committed. And I either know they're coming or they don't belong. One or the other. So I got line of sight down the, there's a perfect.
But you have the line of sight, right? That's the thing is I knew this was happening outside. Now, I want to remind everybody that my wife never left the couch. Like, so she was like, "What's going on?"
Oh, this is all in your head.
This is in my head. I am being infiltrated. Right. So I'm like, we are now going to war. But
you're like Liam Neeson and Taken.
Yeah,
like I have a very special set of
literally,
skills.
like I went through that yard as if I was in a movie. If I had a GoPro, you'd have thought I was in like a Chris Pratt like sniper movie. I was moving from tree to tree so quietly, and I was so excited about it when I was done.
Unreal.
And when I jumped out and said, "Let's dance," I don't know where that came from, but I did, and it was like, oh, and those kids. I never laughed so hard. Well, I had a blast.
I think I'd have gone with "I'm your Huckleberry."
Oh yeah,
you know, just
that would have been. See, in the
I'm your Huck. I mean, that kind of in the dark. Just I'm your Huckleberry.
But that kid'll hear "Let's Dance" forever for his life. He's gonna remember that.
When they came back, they all drove down the driveway because they had to get his shoes and all that stuff.
Did you make him do the walk of shame?
So he came in, and as he got out of the car, he just went, "Mr. Keefer, I definitely don't want to dance." And I was like, "Okay, got it." And I was like, and I just laughed at him, you know. And they went out and saw him, and there was all these kids out there, and they were all middle schoolers. Like they were,
I know any
young.
of them?
I don't think you would know any of them because like even a couple of them, I didn't know.
Middle schooler.
Yeah, I mean he might know who they are, but
it's
unreal.
Anyway, that was my Saturday night of a very, very boring Saturday for me, and I was like, I just poured a glass of wine, and I was like, oh. So for 2.5 hours, I was so entertained, all by myself.
It's one of those
Everybody
things.
in my house was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I am at war."
A kid in the
was
90s,
great.
we're talking about growing up in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's the same if you guys TP'd houses back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the feeling of you've got toilet paper in your hand and you're going to TP somebody's house and throwing them and doing the whole execution and you're running. It's real quiet.
Yeah.
It's there's an exhilaration that kids don't do enough these days.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
they experience that enough doing things like that. 'Cause-
Do you remember Dazed and Confused?
Oh, yeah.
So that
Absolutely.
movie was
Party at the
obviously
Moon Tower.
huge, right?
Yeah.
9:30, man. We did it. So we were going into high school, and the seniors used to try to beat the freshmen's ass with the paddle.
Yep.
We reversed course. We went full Call of Duty stock style with paintball guns.
Oh.
And wrecked the senior class.
The opposite way.
We
as
went
freshmen, the opposite.
We went on.
way.
We're like, no, default mode is attack.
Yeah.
You will not beat my ass with a paddle. And they were camping, and we lit them up.
Yeah.
Lit
But see,
them
just the
up.
fact that there
Patty
were
was
kids
there.
camping back then versus like, I was just so unimpressed by the stealthiness and skill. Like we had phone lights, we had the ability, they're talking out loud. And
They were
I'm
probably
like,
filming it.
Yeah, I'm like,
Because
what
that's
are
what
we
they
doing?
do now.
Yeah.
They film everything.
They didn't ever even know, they had no idea I was there. I went a very long way around them and they had no idea. I thought about just like stepping on the hood or like knocking on the window. But then I was scared that actually one kid would get so scared something would happen. So I kind of had to give them a little leeway. But I mean, I stood there for 2 minutes and they had no idea I was there. And I was like, you got, and they're covering up their light, with their hand, which is now glowing red. I'm like, it's so bad. I was so unimpressed.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they were outside.
Me too, right? Yeah, they were actually doing
way
something.
to go.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah, so
point.
that was cool.
Yeah.
I
They don't
a
have
feeling-
movies like we had, though. We had movies to grow up with that gave us that we had Goonies, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they're coming out with a second one. I don't know if
Yes,
you guys
they
know
are.
that or not.
100% Goonies.
But always serve his tongue.
I have a feeling that this story's not over and that there's probably going to be more, but it's game on because I got tricks out there now. I'm ready.
Firecrackers
I
and such.
got
Booby
things
traps.
now. Yeah, I got things now.
Unreal.
I dare you.
Love
So-
it. Well, that's a good little Saturday
Yeah,
night.
so that was a fun Saturday night for me, but I thought you guys would like that
I'm
because,
surprised you were still up, to be honest with you.
yeah, I was. It was a Saturday night. That's the only
Get a
reason.
little Home Depot in early on in the
Yeah,
day. And then
I had a nice little workout. I got in and a nice little breakfast, and then boring ass day, boring day until I got attacked. Yeah, then it was game
mind-blowing.
on.
They invaded you.
They did.
Yeah.
they did. So anyway, that's my story.
So last week we talked a little bit, or maybe 2 episodes ago, talked a little bit about shed hunting.
Yeah.
And how they found a human corpse.
Uh-huh.
I got another one for you. Kentucky. Did you hear about the guys who went fishing?
No,
Way the hell out. Like, went fishing on a river out there, middle of nowhere. 2 guys are out doing their thing, and they hear some random voice in the woods. They're like, what? So they start yelling, and out pops this old lady with dementia that's been missing for like 3 days.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Oh, yeah. She's just out in the woods, middle of nowhere.
was she fishing?
No, she's no, I guess.
Surviving.
Yeah, she's out there. She had no idea where she was, what she was doing out there, but they found her.
Well,
Usually those stories don't end well for dementia.
Yep.
People with dementia.
Exactly.
So,
But these guys are out fishing. They're like, who is out? Like, where's that voice coming from? And they find a old lady out there in the middle of nowhere.
this
So
was
it's
in
a good-
Kentucky, huh?
Yeah, Kentucky.
good ending.
Yeah,
ending.
good ending.
Yeah.
Something I've
not
never found while shed hunting.
Not a foot in a boot like the shed hunting story.
No.
But, yeah. So,
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Another story, interesting story. Tommy Miranda.
Tom Miranda.
Tom. Tom.
Yeah.
The legend, Tom
Yeah.
Miranda, posted something semi-cryptic, I don't know, earlier last week. He's in the hospital. Never know when your health is, all of a sudden, bam, something goes wrong. He had an update on the post. Now, this is something you want to think about.
Uh-oh.
He got bit by one of his cats. The cat on his hand. He got bit on his hand.
figures.
It had some sort of bacteria in the teeth. Within a couple hours, his hand was swelled up to 3 times the normal size of his hand.
Damn.
And he went in there, and he's been in the hospital ever since. Like, they thought amputation, like crazy stuff. And he was super, super sick.
Yeah.
And he has this bandage on his hand, and it's the size of a case of beer.
It's
I
like
mean, that
Hulk
thing.
So it's half the size of McGurk's hand now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's half the size of one of Randy's hands.
But
Which is a big hand.
Huge hand. The first thing I thought about is God, Chris, you better don't let them bite.
I got
Don't
some
let 'em
barn
bite.
cats, man. Katie said that I told her we get one cat.
Yeah.
We started with four. Yeah, we had 4. They had babies. Those original 4, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are. Now I had
They're
4
cats.
more. Those 4, I have no idea. I'm on the 3rd set of 4, not the originals. So there's 8 randos out there somewhere. And now I got these barn cats but they're in the barn. I mean, they don't come in the
mice
house
killers.
They're crushing
Chipmunk?
it. They're
Chipmunk?
crushing it.
Yep.
Moles, everything else. I never thought I'd have kind of anything for a cat because I always could not stand them. I don't like how they're not loyal, and I hate how they don't answer their names.
Yeah.
But at
can't
the end of the
trust
day,
them.
they're kind of fun to have around the barn when I go in. But
Yeah, I hate mice, so
but
that's
yeah,
a good thing.
so that they're crushing it. But they're actually, I don't want no. That's a good thing to know. So
Well, Tom Miranda, if you're listening to this, glad you're on the mend, buddy.
yeah, sorry about your
Yeah,
hand,
he's
dude.
a legend in our industry, and
Yeah.
out of all the things, he's went to Africa probably dozens of times.
Oh, yeah.
He's been in the most dangerous situations with big game and snakes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Everything he's done, he's probably done as much or more than anyone in this industry as far as travel
Yeah.
and hunting, extreme locations, crazy things.
Yep.
His house cat put him in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, not dengue fever,
Nope.
not malaria.
Nope.
A house cat.
The house cat. And he showed a picture of the cat, and it's just sitting there looking at him like
It has no remorse because it's
Nope.
a cat.
You know, it's funny. Have you seen? Well, right now they found CWD in Virginia, and the people are freaking out over CWD in Virginia.
Yeah.
What's the difference in Virginia versus?
Well, it gets
haven't
the
had
whole zombie deer.
Oh yeah.
And they call them zombie, and people are like, you know, with the internet now, people see zombie deer and they literally think like skin hanging off the face, like zombie
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah.
And they're losing their minds.
That's no good.
CWD has never been proven to transfer to humans. Now, don't eat the meat. You shouldn't eat
Right.
the meat. But,
Well,
yeah.
but people are losing their minds to the whole like traveling and danger and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Oh, so they're afraid of the deer?
They're afraid.
Oh,
they're
dear
literally
Lord.
like terrified, afraid of this deer because it was found to have CWD. So
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms, that CWD conversation.
Oh, wherever your adventure takes you, count on Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's to make it memorable. From the timberline to the campsites to the lake and the range, get your family outfitted with the right gear. With premium brands like Worldwide Sportsman, Ascend, Instinct, Redhead, and Natural Reflections, they've got the apparel and the gear to make it the best adventure ever. Stop by today for a one-of-a-kind shopping experience in-store or online at BassPro.com and Cabela's.com. See for yourself at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's stores. Your adventure starts here. All right, let's talk about beer for a second. You ever notice there's a big difference between Busch Light drinkers and other beer drinkers? I like to say we live on the wild side. You know, a guy with a Busch Light in his hand, he's a man of the people. He's out there in the wild every day. He's in the trenches smashing bushies with a smile on his face. You know why? Because he doesn't care. He's not looking for a soulmate. He just needs something to wash that damn jerky down. And he's got himself a 12-pack of Freedom in a can. And when that can gets cracked, it's like opening a door to a whole different world. It's just a vibe. And if you haven't felt it, you should. So go grab yourself a case of bushies, give them a rip, and take a walk on the wild side. You've got things that matter. Memories, heirlooms, documents, firearms. And we all know that life is unpredictable. At Winchester Safes, they make sure life's unpredictable moments don't take those things from you. They use state-of-the-art methods that refuse to sacrifice quality. They put everything they have into their products, offering proven protection and peace of mind. There's only one safe company worthy of the title, the American Legend, and that's Winchester Safes. Follow at Winchester Safes or learn more on winchestersafes.com. Let's talk about Mountain Ops, a brand that I rely on to fuel my fire in more ways than one. I could sit here and talk about how undeniably essential Ignite is to my daily life. I could explain the benefits of the Super Greens, and I could ponder out loud how they got those Super Greens and Super Reds for that matter to taste so damn good. or I could just give you a quick look into who they are as a company, because to me that matters more than anything. So here it is. They recognize God and acknowledge His hand in all things. They believe in being worthy of others' trust. They're reliable and honest with their information. And lastly, they take full and personal responsibility for their actions and the outcomes. There you have it. If you want to learn more about Mountain Ops and stay connected, check them out on social media at Mountain Ops, or head on over to their website, mountainops.com. And remember, if you want to save some cash, use code Keefer. Well, and another little exciting piece of news, Dropped is officially planned and final and ready to go for this fall.
Man, when you
It's always a good feeling.
you sent that text the other day, like, we got it, and that's finding the spot, right? When
Yeah.
you said we got the spot, it's locked in, and then I was like, okay, we're in it, it's happening.
Yep.
I got a little excited, like real excited.
Yeah.
I think I text back and said, I just put my boots on.
Yeah, you did. You're like, I just put my boots on.
Yeah, it's ready to go. We're 6 months out, got my boots on. Here we go. I mean, it's unbelievable how much I look forward to that trip every year. Come out of it and you're gassed and worked over, and then it's immediately like, I could go back in. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's ready to rock and roll. Provided the river has enough water to float us, we'll be just fine.
Well, I think that's one of the things we can talk about is just the planning for Dropped is because we're in there for an extended period of time.
Yep.
And we tell the story from start to finish. So people go to Alaska all the time. They've always gone. They go in for 7, 12, 10 days. That's great, and they kill moose. But they're going with an outfitter. For us, there's so much research on the back end how to get in and how to get out. And that's where it limits it, because we had a river in mind, but we couldn't get a 185 on floats.
Yeah.
Right? It was
Well,
like
with
you're
mods,
looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gotta
So I
have
mean,
some
there's like
mods on
certain things you're trying to find to get into a certain area, whether it's planes, and that's where you spend a lot of time trying to get that done. That's probably the hardest part. But then once that's secure, then the planning really starts for that particular river.
Yeah, I think it's different because the DIY model, there's no outfitters. So it's you don't know a lot of times way out if you're going. You can't quote unquote book it.
Right.
In the rivers and the public lands up there, they're controlled by the pilots.
Yep.
Right? And so yeah, it's a different model, and sometimes, most of the time, we don't know if we're locked in until that year.
Right.
We have our eyeballs on it, but we don't know until that year whether we're going in to the certain spot or not. So.
Yeah, and there's I mean, the rivers up there, like, and this is no joke, nowadays, I mean, you're 2 to 3 years out.
Yeah.
If you're trying to go in there and do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this process, you started this last year at this same time.
Yeah, for me, it never really stops. It's always just an ongoing, because we do it every season. But for people to go, somebody that wants to go DIY on a badass float hunt, like, you're probably 2 to 3 years before you can even get in right now.
Yeah.
And I totally understand, like, I mean, it's a finite resource up there. You know, they're not like deer. Moose aren't like deer. They don't just populate, you know, they can't come back in a hurry. And so the pilots and everybody does everything they can to protect that resource, use it, but protect it. Right. And so just kind of like managing who goes in and when is how they do that. So
and then
that's why it's so backed up.
Yeah.
Well, on the backside of that, once we do pick the river and the planning starts, there's things like, if we're in a wildlife refuge, obviously there's rules like drone or gas or generators or
permitting.
And then it starts with, okay, so if we aren't allowed to take in, let's just say a Jenny, it's got to be solar, which means we have to do this with the batteries, which means we have to do so that then it starts the whole process of trying to go through and plan and make sure that all that stuff is there, number one. And then looking at our days and how many row days is it going to be versus how many hunt days. And then you take all of that, roll it in a ball, and burn it in the fireplace the day you land.
Yeah, the day you go out there.
Day you go.
Because
that's what happens.
Yeah, the reality is, so once you, and we're in the middle of building a master class for all of this information, but when you pick that location, that's like, okay, now you have known information, and then you try to build from that location. Because to your point, you're either taking 4 batteries and a little Jenny, or you're taking 14 batteries and some solar gear, you know, and then you're either going to take this raft or the smaller raft or the PR-49 or whatever it might be.
Reverse engineer it basically every time.
You have to. And that's just the way it is. And then once you get up there, I mean, we've done it before. We've flown over coordinates on a gravel bar and been like, oh, I guess we're not landing where we were supposed to land. And now it's a matter of, well, figure out where we can land.
And then
that's as close to here as we could possibly get.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's pay attention. I mean, that's the biggest thing. When you're in that plane, you're not going up in that plane until you get extracted. So on the way in, we all are, very conscious of once we hit the river, pay attention to where we're flying over. A lot of times you can see those spots where we might have to, portage and other things like that. So, yeah, I mean, the minute those wheels come off the ground in Fairbanks or wherever we're flying out of, it's the education and like locking that stuff in your brain starts.
Well, it's locked in my brain right now because I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So I can't get out there fast enough.
So am I. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be out there this season, and we're going to be filming it, and it's locked in, and it's official, and that just takes a lot off of our shoulders. Okay, now it's like, let's get to the fun stuff, which is planning. And
more to come on drop
out,
too.
But yeah,
A
dropped.
lot more. Yeah.
It's back.
Well, and I do have a plan for not this season, but next season or maybe even the following season. I'll share it when the time is right. That I don't know that it could ever be topped. We'll talk about later. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know if we can do that on a podcast.
Oh, I can.
Oh, boy.
I can. We'll talk about offline.
All right, offline.
Secrets.
The secrets are dropped.
Yeah.
I got the clip of the week. You guys want to check out the clip of the week?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's see it.
I did some heavy searching this morning, spending my time in the coffee. This one is taking us back to 2015, and it's a bit of a highlight reel. So I wanted to bring this back because there's a lot of things
I know exactly what that is.
what that clip is.
Yep.
What is that clip?
That is the shaker at Buck Knives.
It is the shaker.
100%.
It's what polishes the knives.
Yep.
So I'm going to play this one. I think, what is this, guys, a minute something?
Remember frame rate in there?
Okay, so the funny part is that we've talked about a lot of these projects already, but this is the 2015 Rusted Rooster highlight reel.
Okay,
So
yeah.
there's some stuff in here I want to talk about, so let's go ahead and let this one rip. First of all, this is when we had our animation on. Yeah,
It's actually a really good job.
it's amazing. There's definitely a
Yukon.
theme.
Up
There's
Easy
a
pass.
theme.
Yep.
Okay, 50th anniversary of AA.
Right?
It is now the 60th anniversary
Currently,
of AA.
yes.
So, pretty crazy. A style back then. Time lapse must have been huge.
Speed
because
ramps, time
We were
lapses.
shooting speed ramps, time lapses, and
A lot of time lapse
crazy.
work.
And Fred Bear,
Oh,
the slow motion.
Browning release. That was the launch.
That was the launch of
Rizzy
Browning
did
ammo.
those
ammo.
graphics. I remember him doing those graphics.
Yeah.
The launch of Browning ammo.
That was a reverse.
The PSC.
That was in that. That was in that
Carbon air.
building.
Yep.
Buck Knives came out with Edge of a Legend.
Yeah.
True Fire was
Fire.
rebranded that year.
Yeah.
Reconics commercial.
Yep.
Megatron.
I remember hitting that bump and throwing it out like.
Muzzy commercials.
Rebranded. Yep.
Rebranded Muzzy came out.
Oh, we shot that in Wyoming.
Hook. We were doing all hooks brand.
Yeah, there was Hook
It was Jameson's buck he wasn't supposed to shoot.
and Grizzly.
Yep.
Yeah.
The very first Grizzly commercial
Yeah.
that was shot.
T-Bone,
And this
Monk.
is the Scent Lock commercial
Yeah.
that we did the turkey
Mikey.
hunt on. And then
Little Cal
Mr.
Hizzle.
Calhoun.
Yeah.
This is when music was a
Yeah.
big part of what we were doing behind the scenes.
This might have been the best year we ever had.
That's
Looking
why-
at this
That's why I wanted to share it, because
year.
look at how many things happened. And then Winchester's PowerPoint commercial.
PowerPoint spot. This was the in Yukon here.
Yep.
Yep.
That was a tough hunt. Jesus.
So that's when I climbed all the way up there and I looked and that ram was
There's the
staring at me.
horses.
The horse blow-ups. That was in church camp right there when we shot that slider shot.
More time
It's
lapses.
funny, every shot, you know exactly where it was.
Yep.
That was a good piece
That
we
was
did
it.
with Calhoun, that
That
BTS.
was down to Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rocks, yeah.
And then Mr. Cornelius was in a Jay's commercial because we
Yep.
shot that for Jay's at the time.
He was.
Yeah.
There it
And
was.
then another graphic.
Yeah, that was a good year.
Isn't that crazy? And that was 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the stuff we've talked about on the show, behind the scenes and all the things. But then in 1 year, that was 2015. And those are all the projects that we worked on. And some of that stuff, like the AA was 50 years. Now
we're
it's
doing the
60,
60th.
and we're doing the 60th, right? All the launches of some of those brands, Browning Ammunition, that was the first time that came out in that
the
time
rebrand
period.
of Muzzy.
Yeah, the rebrand of Muzzy and the True Fire and all the fun stuff that we did during that time. It's
So many.
incredible that was there. So I wanted to get your guys' opinion on some of that stuff.
There's some cool stories in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's some really cool stories in there.
so many stories, man. I think, like I was saying, like when I see those one frame of video, I know where we were.
Yep.
It's like all of a sudden I know where we were. I know what cameras we were using. I know what treatment was put together for that project. I know how long it took to shoot it. I know how long it took to put it together. I know where it was delivered and where it was distributed. Like all within 1 second of seeing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pride, because I think when you're in this box all the time and always creating, you forget. You're just creating the next best thing that you can think of.
Yeah.
The next thing that drives us, that drives our creativity. The next one's in front of us, and it's rare that we look back.
Yeah.
And this was 10 years ago, man. This is 10 years ago, and there's still stuff in there that I'm so proud of. All of that stuff that we've done.
Yeah.
To your point about like the next thing, we just talked about, literally just talked about dropped being planned for this year. I'm already next year in my brain.
Yep.
I'm already like, okay, how do I top this? How do we come back with a new idea, or how do we take dropped and advance it or get it to go to the next level? So I think that's just, I don't know, that's how my brain works.
I think it's what's, from a business perspective, to get into that for a second, it's always what's drove us is we've never reached the top of the mountain, because when we get close, we build more mountain. And that's just what it's always been. And I look at some of this stuff and I go, it's cool. And it takes a village. Our team and
Amazing
our team today, still 100% give them credit for. And some of those guys are still here, right back here, looking at it.
Yep.
Freer, he's over there. He did half the graphics for that stuff back then. So, incredible things that our team has done along the way. But it is funny when I watch that how the progression and styles of the shooting, like I said, we talked about like the time lapse at that point.
Oh, yeah.
There was a thing, right, where we were shooting it on sliders and we were doing stuff like that was definitely something that was happening at that time. And the music that we chose at that time, that was like, we probably were inspired by something. And so it's interesting to go back and look at that and go, okay, I see what was in play.
Yeah.
Because we started on these tape cameras. So as we're going, you can kind of look at this progression of what new technology was available to us that we used during that time, and today the same.
And a lot of that came down to the technology that's mobile, right? And editing, and the ability to edit in ways that were virtually impossible before.
Yeah.
You look at now, and you could say the same for where we are right now. Like, watch YouTube videos that have the jump cuts in them, where they're just cut after cut after cut after cut. You could tell, okay, that was edited probably or built probably in this time frame. Like, you can pinpoint that search stylistically, kind of how that stuff goes together.
Yeah, you can. And I think there was very few drone clips, because drone technology, and really that was a lot of 2013 and 14 stuff in that reel, was still yet to be desired. There's a drone that we have.
It's the most expensive lamp in the planet. It's right in
it
there
was
in
a
the-
$25,000 drone,
Yeah.
and it had a platform, and you stuck whatever camera on there you wanted to stick on there. And it's just interesting, because the technology always helps the storytelling, but it always, I think, hurts it too, can hurt it, because it especially in our space, I feel like there's a tool belt. As I always preach this, you have a tool belt and you have all the tools in your tool belt, but if you're building a house, you don't just use a hammer for everything. And I remember when the DSLR cameras came out and you're shooting with, now you have straight up lenses that you're shooting with, interchangeable lenses. Everything, the depth was so deep. There's so much bokeh on every shot, because it was the first time you could really inexpensively shoot and tell a story through those lenses. So then the next thing were sliders. Everything was a slider. Then everything was super slow-mo, and then everything was drone, and everything was speed ramp.
We set up a jib in a frickin' waterfowl spread. You remember that? We literally had a jib. We had decoys attached to the top of it, so that as the birds were coming in, we could work the jib in the middle of a 250-acre cornfield. There's the shit we tried. It's like, why not? Let's figure out this, and we could do this.
I think I said one time in a company meeting, if we have one more slider of a corn stalk, I'm going to lose my mind, because there was like 100,000 slider shots of corn stalks.
We used them all, though. I'll tell you
Good
that.
shots,
We're always
though.
late on
And
stuff like
we
that.
used
Good
every
shots.
one of them, you know. But yeah, you go out to the field, we'd set up that slider, take that slider undropped and everything else, and now again, technology, Osmos, the stuff that you're hand holding, and it's giving you that same amazing look, but just with less time. So
yeah, and I think I remember to the waterfall situation. Lipstick camera. I'd ordered a lipstick camera, and it wasn't even B&H back then. I don't know where it was from. I got it sent in, and you had RCA, the yellow, the red, and the white.
Yep.
I had a 40-foot. I had to run that 40 feet because I wanted it to be out in the decoys. So I got a long cable, ran it back, and you had to record that lipstick camera on an actual camera device.
Yeah.
So I'd have it run in. I had it going into a high 8.
Yeah.
And I mean, the things that you did back then to try and figure out a way to get a shot, you work so hard at it. Now all the tools are at your fingertips,
just
man.
wear your
And
meta
it's
glasses
so
now,
good.
and you're good to go.
It's unreal.
Yeah, we're the meta glasses.
What you were saying about gear, though, the tool belt, like I believe in that wholeheartedly, not all the way down to like, and this is a side of storytelling in the field that I don't think people, just because maybe they don't think about it in this way, you could do 4 or 5 different looks with the same lens.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So just because you have the body and the lens to go on it that somebody else has doesn't mean you're going to tell the same type of story.
That's right.
Because your settings and how you change it, like there is a million ways to tell stories.
Yeah.
Million ways.
It's funny how I think the three of us naturally have always gravitated towards the same style of story.
Classic story.
Yeah, I think the timeless is how I try to look at it.
That's
Something that is timeless, that if it's a good story now, it'll be a good story when people watch it 50 years from now.
Yep.
And that's where I think we're losing it right now with some of this YouTube stuff and just how things are cut together. Like,
It's meant for immediacy.
it is. It's meant for, I got 10 seconds, I'm going to watch as it go.
It's forgettable.
And they move on, and it's as quickly as it went in, it goes out.
It creates an emotion one time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
for like-
and maybe the driver was just to go to this page or to go to this product.
Yeah.
But I think we're all more about the long-term story. How can somebody in a year remember that story? 5 years remember that story? How can it create a connection to a story that they've had in their own life?
Yep.
You know, I think that's what we all love is being able to do those things with the projects at hand.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's the difference between telling a brand story and telling a marketing story.
Yeah, it's
A brand story is long term, you know what I mean? And a marketing story is very short term, meant to drive immediate action.
Yeah.
Brand stories are meant to just build that loyalty over the long haul.
100%. And I I'll say this too. Have you guys watched The Americas yet?
One episode.
So good.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's Tom Hanks narrated. It's on Peacock if you have it. But they're really good, and it's all America too. So they go up into Anwar and they do a bunch of stories up in Anwar. They cover all North America, which is really really cool. I thought that was a neat. I think it's an 8-episode series. Very well done. Very well shot. It's one of those that you can just turn on and just watch. Yeah. And you don't. And it's funny, you'll dual screen a lot when you're watching a show. You'll kind of look at your phone and then watch. Like I set my phone down and it was just pure entertainment and visual beauty and connection with it, because we've been to most of these spots that they're highlighting and seen it with our own eyes at our own ground level. It's really cool to see all that stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend it highly.
Still trying to find time to watch TV right now. Hockey stopped for a couple of days and now we're back at it.
You're in a busy time.
Yep.
No doubt about that. Well, 2015, I thought that was a cool clip to just reminisce a little bit on. There's a lot that happened in the industry that year. I think there was a lot of innovation just in the hunting industry alone. That was a big year for a lot of big brands to kind of really break through. And it's cool to just be a little bit of a part of it. For some of us, the hunt never stops. Grizzly understands that more than most. Rugged, reliable, and built to never back down. Whether you're on the trail, by the water, or deep in the dark timber, Grizzly is by your side. Tough enough to take on the wild and ready for whatever you can throw. Grizzly is committed to products that never let you down. Always on the hunt with Grizzly.
Out here in the wild, precision isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. Leupold Optics is built on the foundation of American craftsmanship, where every features function first. For over a century now, they've combined dedication and technology with a relentless put-it-to-the-test attitude, creating optics that stand up when everything else stands down. When it matters most, you need the best. That's what you get with Leupold Optics. While other companies out there warranty failure, Leupold guarantees performance for life.
Some call it out on the trail. I like to call it the road less traveled. The kind of place where the going gets tough. That's where Tracker Off-Road comes in. Made for those who won't back down. Tracker Off-Road delivers the hardest working machines with the greatest capability at the strongest value in the industry. Built by those who know what it takes and designed for those who don't turn back. Tracker is dedicated to delivering machines that let you get the most out of your day and your dollar. Ready to take on your next adventure? Go with Tracker Off-Road.
Every shot counts. And when it's time to make it count, you want the best. Winchester Ammunition has built its legacy on a commitment to innovation by continuously pushing what's possible. In the heartland of America, the American legend crafts ammunition that's purpose-built, reliable, accurate, and ready to perform no matter how harsh the conditions. Whether you're hunting or shooting for sport, Winchester will be there.
The hunting industry at that point in time was going through
maturing.
Yes, it was maturing big time.
Yeah.
It was going through from product development to brands to everything. It was like there was tons of new, meaningful stuff coming out, most of it revolving around technology or newer technologies that were allowing companies to change the game in their specific category. It's kind of gotten stagnant for a while, but that for us as storytellers, like what better time? Like it was ripe for stories because they existed everywhere we looked. Oh, this new product, that new technology, this new brand, that new company. I mean, they were just all over the place. So I think it was just a cool little window in time.
Great little window in time, and stay tuned for that window in time because we're going to dive into it at some point with some special projects. So in the window in time before that. But one thing that popped up on that was Fred Bear, father of bow hunting.
Yeah.
Probably one of my top 2 or 3 projects we've ever done for a lot of reasons. Obviously, Fred
Tell people about the vault.
So, backstory: Fred Bear, father of bow hunting, was a special project we did in conjunction with Sportsman Channel in 2014-15.
In bear archery at the time.
Yep, in bear archery at the time. And we got a chance to go and tell the story of Fred Bear. And I had a crew. We went down. Freer, I think, was with us, I believe. Rich Schultz, a handful of others. And we shot interviews. We went in Gainesville. They had their bear archery headquarters where they built all their bows and everything. But the most memorable thing was the vault. Mm-hmm. And there's a gentleman there. His name slips my mind, and I wish I remembered it. But he was the curator, quote unquote, unofficial curator of the Fred Bear vault. Yeah. And he said, "I'm one of the very few people that can go in this vault. Not a whole lot of people have been in this vault, but when you're in here, just look at everything because there's things in here." Don't touch, but there's things in here that no one's ever seen before. So we open the vault and we walk in there, and the smell of it immediately just reminded me of like a library, but old school paper. Yeah. And you start looking at all these film tins that had, Fred's like actual films that they would send to schools around the country. So they basically would do these films, and that's where these were shown, is in high schools. So these film tins would be sent to all different parts of the country, and they would sell out in a high school gym, and you'd watch Fred Bear on film in your gym.
So cool.
So cool.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Like now, that ain't happening.
It's not happening.
No, but how cool would that be to be like, everybody assemble, we got a new Fred Bear film.
Yeah, he's chasing a grizz. Watch this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then to get even deeper into it, he had some of his old scripts. And this was what I really thought was cool, because you know how many scripts we've written in the past. Yeah. And you have a printed script, one that you take in the field with you always make notes on. Yeah. Well, he went in there and he has the film. So when he would go out and do a film, the way I understand it, and I believe this is the way it was, he would write the script to the film before he went out there. So he would know the scenes that he had to get. He would hunt, obviously, but around the hunt, he would have certain things that he wanted to make sure he shot, or certain things that he needed to do. Well, in a lot of these scripts, he'd scribble it out and write in a new word, or scribble this out and change the location to where he was. And I'm looking at this, going through his original script. And I wanted to take that son of a bitch. You know how much I love that stuff. Ooh. I wanted to take it. I wasn't going to take it, but that's something I would really appreciate having, just to put in my archives in the basement. But it was just really cool to be a part of that. And I still have, we have the raw footage. I was thinking about this the other day. It's funny going through the raw footage and just looking again and seeing what's in
So what
there.
I think we should do as we move forward and what we got coming, we should reach out and see if Bear will let us bring this stuff to light again.
Yeah.
I
would love a swing
not?
at re-editing this.
That's
to
what
be
I'm
honest
saying.
with you.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Reach out and see if
Tell the story with new technology and the new stuff that we have today versus what we had back then.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do a series where we sit down and let's throw it up and watch it together.
I know what we should.
And just see it.
Yeah.
And let's be those high school kids back then. Let's sit down and watch it.
It's really amazing to see and to get the access of, I remember writing, because I wrote the entire script for that, and I bought like 4 books of Fred Bear, and I remember ripping out pages and reorganizing stuff and highlighting certain things, and I mean, it was just incredible to dive into it that deep. And this is really crazy. You guys know I went to that wild game dinner at Detroit Athletic Club last week. Yeah. A guy from our hometown, actually, he works for a company here. We started talking. His great-grandpa was best friends with Fred Bear. When he was down in Detroit in the auto industry, Fred was in Detroit with Bear Archery at first before he went up to Grayling. Yep. And he had a lot of the car manufacturers would make the parts for his bows, and they'd get the really good wood, and he'd get in there. So he was apprehensive to move up north just because of all the connectivity he had in Detroit with the auto manufacturers and the auto industry. But the stories that this guy was telling me about his grandpa and the Fred Bear that was in front and the Fred Bear behind the camera, it was really interesting, man. Yeah. Like he was such a dynamic human, and he had such a way about him. Yeah. And the people that really knew him, like they're family friends with the Bear family, and so he's telling me these stories, and I don't even know if I can tell some of them. I won't tell them, but it's just super cool.
We will.
But we could. He would be good. He's in town. Yeah. He would be great to have on here, and he's a traditional archer. He's a neat guy that has some really cool stories about Fred and his family.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we see if we could bring this stuff back to life in some way, shape, or form.
That would be cool.
If you guys want to hear never before heard or seen Fred Bear stories, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. We get enough responses. Maybe we'll make a run at it.
Yeah. And we've got an angle. I mean, he's from our home state, and there's we know a lot of people. You guys lived in Grayling, right?
Yeah, for forever.
10, 15 years.
Ate at Bear's Den 5,000 times.
Yep. So. And it's a really, people in our state hold him very dear, especially the outdoorsmen. And
Uncle Ted wrote a song about him.
And this is funny. He told me,
right?
He was telling me about Fred and Ted the first time they met, and all these stories about Ted. Yeah, about Ted, and when Fred was mentoring him and teaching him about hunting, how in tune, like he loves Ted. He's like, Ted was so in tune with it. Yep. He was open-minded. He wasn't good at first, but then he started to learn. So when Fred, a lot of people, he's always, he throws Fred's name out there just for the name. No, it's not. Like Ted really, and we know Ted, he really truly learned from Fred Bear.
Oh yeah, no, he's come out and said it before without Fred.
And he says,
he does an archery hunt.
Yeah.
Really.
And in the song, this guy was even telling me, in the song, he says, when he talks about the swamp, the Fred Bear song, in the swamp. Yeah. You get that. He said, when he says swamp, this property, I've hunted it before. I know the swamp he was talking about because that's, where Ted first started hunting in Michigan was in that swamp. So he's like, all the lyrics that he wrote to that song, I'm putting them in like that. I know where he's talking about.
That's
so
cool.
It's really cool. Yeah.
That's storytelling at its finest.
At its finest.
I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
And not to mention, I wore something similar to this. I wore a suit to this wild game dinner, which was really weird.
And you're suiting up too much.
Yeah, I know.
Someone get this guy a regular sweatshirt.
Turn in a new leaf.
Around the closet there.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's suiting up.
Well, you can't wear denim there, Chris.
Oh, I definitely know that. I got kicked out.
Oh, no.
This is funny.
I did. Detroit
you?
Athletic Club. I went down there to do a speech, and this was last year. Went to speak at this conservation thing. Jason and I go down, and I had on very dark denim with a suit jacket. And I got to the front door, and the man was like, "Nope."
No denim, he says.
I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Nope. Gotta go." And I'm like, "Ooh."
And I was wearing these.
Yeah. And he's
these
wearing
exact
those.
pants.
I said, "Hey, those are denim, but I want to throw him under the bus," and they're black. So they didn't really know that they were.
What you should have done is just drop trowel right there.
Yeah. I was thought about
just
it.
walked in.
Well, I said to him,
Like,
"What do
got
I
rid of my
do?
denim.
I go in here with no pants? I just go no pant? What do I do?" And the guy says, "You're shit out of luck, bud." I'm like, "Okay." So I started walking around Detroit, and there was a private event at this place, Grayson, in downtown Detroit, and they make golf clothes. And there was a private event. JB and I just walked right in, and they were like, they had this iPad, and if you were an employee, you got some gear, And they were going through, and the lady just looked at us like, "You're not here a part of this private event, are you?" And I'm like, "No."
We didn't look like the private event.
She looks at me, and she looks up, and she's like, "Let me guess, no denim?" And I go, "Oh, so this isn't the first time you've had this?" She goes, "No." And then she goes, "What size are you?" And I said,
12 slim?
30, 29 or 30, 30. And she's like, "Ooh." She went downstairs, she disappeared, came back with the outfit, everything matched the pants perfectly, gave me a great deal. I was like, "All right, perfect, nice sweet pants."
Yeah.
And I went back, and the guy's like, "Nice job." I'm like, "Screw you, man."
Did you walk in? There was like 4 other guys wearing the same exact thing that all went to Grayson.
All went to Grayson to wear them. So
She went downstairs. She said, "I got another one over there."
Yeah. So I had to take my jeans and run them back up. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I was dressed like a schlub. I was wearing dark denims, and they were like, "No, it's not." I dressed like everything else was dialed in.
Yep.
I even combed my hair, which for me, a suit's fine, but I took my hat off.
Yeah.
That was enough, people. Took my hat off.
Yeah, it was funny. We were sitting there, and we were in the same room that we both spoke in the event. And I'm talking to this guy, and he goes to Alaska. He's probably 70 years. He is 70. I know he's 70. Sitting right next to him. He was telling me he's going to Alaska and all these different hunts, showing me stuff. I'm like, "That's incredible, man." And I told him, when we go out there, a lot of times we do a month at a time and just take limited stuff. And he's like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool." And I said, one of on the production side, I shoot, direct, and all this stuff. And he's looking at me, and I could see his eyes go like, "Huh." I could see, and he's like kind of like that show Dropped. He's like, "No, that is a show. That's our show.
That's what we're talking about."
And he's like, "Are you kidding me? I've watched all of them."
No shit.
Like he's watched. So
I love that.
People think that all the time we run into people like that.
Yeah.
We don't. It's cool when somebody realizes it and they've watched the stories that we've shot and put out there. It's just cool. That'll never get old for me when somebody recognizes and appreciates a story that we crafted.
Yep.
And that's a unique thing.
I always find it funny when people key in on certain parts of the show. Like when I let the first fish go.
God,
people
They don't like that.
I don't like it either. But
it's so funny because
I don't either.
Your brother gets so pissed off at you. I'm like, it happens every year. Used to it by now. Now I don't even say it anymore.
I just
catch him
walk
and let
away.
him go.
You're like, I'm like, "Oh, you kept that one? You must have caught one already." Because I know you've already caught one. Because I'm like, "No, I can't."
Nope.
The first fish.
Well, it's not just Chris that's mad. There's 2 other guys there running these cameras. They're like, "Casey,
Salivating.
Would like some fish.
come on,
Yeah,
man."
you guys get where I'm coming from. You give back.
Sure.
Mother
Sometimes
Nature
she
back.
gives.
Yeah, there's been
like
there's
she-
been a
Unless
couple
season
times.
3, she didn't really give
she didn't
back
give
at all.
Shit,
No.
season 3.
It's like she already gave. That's why. That was my. And then we always get in the argument. I love it. It's been an
remember-
ongoing. Now it's a tradition. It's like, here we go.
I'm going to start
funny.
letting the first 2 fish go.
Throw it.
I got to let 1 fish per guy, so that means 4 total.
Yeah.
First 4 fish are going back.
I remember that
Mark
rough
my
year.
fucking words.
Yeah.
Season 3, we got in this grayling hole, and this was day 20 something.
Oh,
we
I
were
remember.
starving, and this is the year all the salmon were done running.
Gone.
The ducks were out, and we had no sat phone because it died on like the 5th day, so we couldn't talk to our
Bad
families.
trip.
That was a bad trip. So, and I remember we were all so exhausted. We weren't even filming this. And Casey, did you or Chris start catching the fish?
No,
you
you
did.
did.
Yeah.
The
Casey,
sun,
yeah.
The sun came out.
The sun came out, so you start whipping the old fly line, and you start pulling in grayling, and it's like in Scooby Doo when like you see like this little bubble with food come. I'm like, oh, food! Like we got so excited.
crushed them.
We
Crushed 'em.
Ate it like, I mean, it was like all of us. It was like sushi almost. I mean, I remember cooking them in the tin
In the foil, yeah.
and then we just, I mean, bones and grayling are bony fish,
Bony,
and
bony.
we crushed it.
They're really good, but
and we
they're
thought
bony.
we thought that we ate like kings, and it was like 2 grayling. Like,
Yeah,
like
you too, and you're
big
like, oh, I
grayling,
can't
but we're
possibly
like,
have more.
There's no way I can eat more. But it was like 4
I don't-
bites.
I
and
honestly-
wow, I was starving.
I don't think I stopped fishing. I don't think I ate.
Yeah,
Like I'm thinking back, that was the best grayling
you were.
I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
like there's one, and they were all
They're 20.
Yeah, that was
plus.
just gonna say they're all
Hammers.
20-inch giant grayling,
Hammers.
which is like, what the hell is going on in here?
they
I'll never forget where that was. In my mind, I can
Yeah.
little bend.
See the
Yeah,
bar?
I can see
See the sun?
everything in that hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how you get those core memories like that? That just, I mean, when you're starving and get food for the first time, I guess that's easy to make a core
Oh my
memory
god!
of. But
I'll never forget
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, but it's the same in whitetail. Like I know for me, like I mean, you think about all the shit that I process in a day, and then I'll see a picture of a deer and be like, "Oh man, that was 138 and 7/8
Yeah.
back in." It's like, how do I remember the score of that deer or whatever? It's like
Yeah.
you have that and you remember it because that's a core memory. And it's
Yeah.
like you know exactly where he scored, you know where he shot him, you know what you were, the weather, all the things that come with it. That core memory just stays with you. But someone will be like, "Hey, did you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, what day is it? I don't know if I've done that
Yeah.
because it's just
Yeah,
it
what
goes in the processor and out the other side."
Yeah.
So
what did I have for breakfast? No idea.
yeah, exactly.
Gravel
But-
bar in 16.
Yeah.
Know exactly where we were.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can close my eyes.
September
and go, yeah, there it is.
22nd.
Yep.
Yeah,
Can see it.
100%.
Can
Yeah.
see it, man.
No
Cool.
doubt. No doubt.
We're talking about guests real quick.
Yeah.
Been thinking about this.
Yep.
I do want to try and get a guest on here.
Yeah.
I think it's something. Are we open to guests? We've
Oh,
never
yeah.
really talked about it.
Bring
I think
it.
are we open
I
to
think
guests?
we've got a list of guests that.
I want to get some guests on. I was going to throw it out to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just say we're thinking about opening this thing up, bring some guests on, tell some stories.
Would love
so
that.
who
Yeah.
would you guys want to see?
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know.
Love to have some guests on. There's some people we could call pretty quick and have some fun stories with. So if you want to see some, let us know if you got anybody in mind. Be
Yep.
cool. Be
I think-
cool to have
I
them
think
on.
it'd be fun.
Well, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up here. Next week, we're going to be in Mexico. Jason and I are gone. We're at spring break.
I'll be
Back
in the
the week.
DR.
Back the wee shed up. I'll be right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be here. Actually, I might go shed hunting.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well,
Where? Ohio?
Missouri.
Missouri?
we have got senior spring break, which is insane that it's
Kids are
here and it's
seniors.
happening. But we've got our senior spring break for our kids, and we're going different. You're going to where are you going?
DR,
DR.
Dominican
He's going to
Republic,
Dominican
yeah.
Republic. I'm going to Mexico. So
You're going to go to Senior Frogs?
I might, when I get off the plane,
Rip some darts?
First of all, I'm going to find some darts for all of you that hated on me for that. I'm going to rip some Mexican
Cuban
ciggies, and then I'm going to find a yard of
Yeah.
like senior
Oh, yeah.
frogs, and then I'm just going to hammer it.
Bring me back some bracelets and chiclets.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
those
think,
snap
remember
bracelets.
those guys?
Remember those guys? Yeah.
Where you're going, there's no senior frogs in your resort.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
sorry to
there's
tell you.
not. No, but there is one.
Oh,
at the
where
airport.
are you going? You're not going to the Cancun?
No, I'm going to Playa del Carmen. So,
Yeah.
but the resort that I'm going to is not going to have a senior frogs, but they are going to have a lot of free drinks.
lot of food
that I get.
poisoning.
Well, they're not free because I paid for it, but yeah.
I'm already preparing for the food poisoning.
Yeah.
Montezuma's
Well, you're done.
revenge.
You're going to Dominican Republic. You're going.
I'm basically going to eat every
going
stuff
on
that's
drop.
cooked.
Yeah.
No salad, no fruit, which
Yeah.
is kind of normal anyway.
Drink
But
Presidente.
You mean no veggies? That's
Yeah.
crazy. I can't
No-
believe you do that.
No fruit, no veggies.
Yeah.
Just terrible shit.
Yeah.
In
so
beer.
next week we got to do it remote. We got to come in and we'll share our views.
Oh,
You'll
that's
be
gonna
the-
be fucking
You're gonna be the lone
terrible.
soldier sitting
Oh.
here in the bay.
I got to
So,
find something to do now.
Yeah, now you got to find something so we
Gotta
can go
find
3
something
remote.
fun to do.
Yeah,
Be sitting in here all by
Well,
myself.
do it from Missouri then.
Me and all my friends.
Do it
Yeah.
from your
By
shed
myself.
hunt.
yeah. Well, we're gonna join up. We're gonna go virtual next week, I think. So that'll be fun.
Okay.
Keep it going. But yeah, another one in the books, fellas. It
Yep.
happens quick.
Episode
Happens
5.
Quick. 1 hour and we're done.
I can't believe it's went by that fast. I mean, it goes by fast.
Anything else you want to get out? Anything else we need to review, cover?
Nope. I'm good for now. I actually got phone calls I got to get on.
Yeah.
Time to wrap it up. That's it, Wilder Minds. Thank you guys for listening, and give us the feedback. Give us everything. We want to hear it. Let's leave a comment and tell us what we can do with guests and all the other stuff. Wilder Minds.
Mama say it's a new day, son.